Well, let's talk about this attack on Bastion, man. Like, how did that? Talk us through the timeline of that day.
Yeah, so I mean that was, if we were there in spring, I think we were there in April, May, June, July, August, September. So I mean that's towards the end of the deployment. So like we had kind of seen like all the craziness of war per se, um, from the perspectives that we had. Everybody had their own perspective of what combat had looked like, and mine was a bird's eye view the entire time. And I mean there were a couple times where we were on the ground and things got hairy. But yeah, I always, I'm trying for this not to be like a grandpa story that I have one day where I just like, let me tell you about Bastion. But it's starting to turn out to be that way because everybody wants to know. But yeah, it was interesting because like I'm sitting there like I'm standing there decompressed and I'm brushing my teeth, just like thinking about what happened that day, and I'm just like I'm so relaxed, just had a great shower, and then all of a sudden like the whole building starts shaking, and I'm like, what the heck was that? I'm like, oh, it's probably a controlled detonation outside or something like that. Probably something, whatever. It's just something that happens, and then it starts happening, over and over again, and then the manufactured building that I'm in is ahead. The manufactured building that I'm in starts like there's just this awful sound, coming through the top of this roof, and is PKM rounds skipping off the top of these DynCorp buildings that we were in, and just shredding the metal, coming through the roofs of these buildings, and I'm just like, what, what is going on here? Like I thought it was like, is this a dust storm? Is this a tornado? Like, and then I'm in green on green, getting my shower and shave on, and I leave the head and I walk outside, and it was just this intensive heat hit me, and bright light, everything, and I'm like, okay, like, am I dead? Like, or is what's going on here? The fuel bladders of the flight line of Bastion just got hit with RPGs and grenades, and they went up like a match, man. Like the entire fuel reserve just went up in a matter of seconds, and it was the most like dominating heat and energy and light that I've ever experienced. And I wasn't like close enough to where it injured me. Like none of us were close enough to where it injured us. But it was just still, I mean, burning diesel at that, magnitude. It was just insane. And I'm like, oh man, the fuel pit just went off, because I didn't even think it was like an attack at first. And then, this is an actual quote. Dude runs by me, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? He's like, Charlie's in the wire. He says, Charlie's in the wire. And I'm like, what? But he screamed it at me. He's like, Charlie's in the wire. I'm like, what are you talking? And he just kept running. I'm like, what? So it was just so odd. And then we all just tried to get organized and figure out what the heck was going on. And I will say, like, you know all the trash talking that goes on about the air wing, it's true. Like it's all very true. Like we are disgusting air wingers, like that have no idea how to deal with that kind of stuff. And it was just really funny to see like all the just the chaos that ensued when something like that happened. It's like Marines should be able to handle this a little bit better, but like we're just freaking out. And um, me personally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get away from all the craziness. Like we had officers trying to like, do musters and stuff like that, while like we were like watching the enemy come through the wire, and like they were shooting at us. And I'm like, why are you trying to get a muster? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, get to our cover and concealment, and like we're trained to do this kind of stuff. But I was in green on green, flak and Kevlar, so I'm rolling around with short shorts and my M9. Like my M4 is back at the squadron spaces. We don't bring those back with us. We leave them near the aircraft because we'll never need them.
Yeah,
So I'm
right.
rolling around with like an M9 and a mag, and like my flak and Kevlar and short shorts. And I started out with sandals, but then I was like, you know what, I should probably. So I threw my combat boots on. Um, and I just tried to find people that seemed like they had, any kind of sense of what was going on. And eventually we got organized. And, I was on the ground, but about a mile away at the squadron spaces, they actually they were deploying they were sending aircraft up to support. So it's funny because my squadron declared a tick on itself and then answered that tick with its own aircraft. so like we had dudes on the ground at the squadron spaces, taking shots at the insurgent team that had hit the base, and then they were like, hey, we got to get these aircraft up in the air. So like they hopped on the strip section, hopped on, and they got airborne, and then air support started coming in, and really it took several hours for the whole base to kind of get organized and to figure out what was going on. And I will say, like, I'm not afraid to say it, like that night was a loss. Like we absolutely lost that battle. Like it was a defeat. If you look at Marine Corps history, I would say that went down as a defeat because you have 15 barely trained Afghan or Taliban insurgents, the right place at the right time with the right equipment and just enough training to cause millions and millions of dollars worth of damage, to inflict millions of dollars worth of damage. We had friendly KIA. We lost two definitely. I think there was actually three that we lost, and then several wounded. Even my squadron mates, some of our guys, walked away with Purple Hearts and cars and stuff like that. So, but it was absolutely. I felt pretty bad walking away from that. I mean, it was obviously it was a several day kind of experience. All the fighting was over in a matter of about 4 hours. But just the, how spooled up we were after that was like probably 2 to 3 days. And I walked away from that and I was just like, I just felt bad because we just responded so poorly to that. And when 2 generals were fired, we had, squadron personnel who were killed or wounded. And I think it was 7, maybe 8 Harriers were completely destroyed. Like the insurgent team went, some of them, they broke off in like fire teams. And then a majority of them went to the Harrier hangar and just literally started tossing grenades into Harrier cockpits and intakes and RPGs. And I was not happy with how Marines performed that day.
It's one of those things. Bastion was there for years. I don't remember exactly when it was built. Maybe 2009 or something like that.
9-10.
But the after years of rotations through, that complacency sits in. Because it starts to. The security plan, I mean, how often is the security plan going to be updated? It's like, hey, we have a watch point right here. This is where our sentries are at. This is because I know with the air wing side, they have their own kind of security guys as well, in addition to people that are tasked for like full base security and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's like Bastion and Leatherneck, is such a large area and stuff. I'm sure even when they're on watch, doing their rotations, like, man, no one's ever going to do anything over here. Like this is too big, it's too much of a base. But my air officer, when I got the first Anglico, Captain Martinez, his Harrier was one of the ones that got destroyed during that attack. I know, man. I remember reading about it. Like I said, I was there the year prior, and I was looking at Leatherneck like, man, this is crazy. You don't have people in the towers, and a lot of these towers, they don't have. No one carries any kind of loaded weapons around or anything. Like, this is kind of weird. And then when I got back there, when I came back in 13, it was way more secure. The flight line area was like way more secure. There was like sandbagged, like machine gun positions and shit like that. Yeah. And everyone had to carry like a magazine and their weapon. It was like completely a different place. And I don't know, man. It would have. I can see what you're saying, how you're disappointed in the response, and I would say that's where that complacency thing, because you just get to this point that you could never imagine that even happening. Like, no, why would they? How would they even send a team over here to do that? And then they do, you know.
It's war. You know, it was. I mean, they exploited a weakness, and we suffered for it. And I mean, you could literally walk the chain link fence and look up and see cardboard cutouts in the towers, like.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was a sergeant at the time, like nobody would ever listen to me if I said anything. Like, is you know, like, and they actually had Afghani, like they had like local nationals and native Afghanis who would come up to the wire and like see how far they could push it before they showed up. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, if you just look at the dollars and cents, it was not a victory for the old US of A.
What was the what was the immediate impact of that? That had to have affected combat operations. I mean, within the entire region, because that's where like a lot of the close air support for the entire region is coming out of that airfield. So how did that affect like operations for the next few days as you guys like regrouped?
Sorry, you broke up there for a second.
Oh, I was saying, how do you think that affected combat operations? Because that area, that airfield provides all the close air support assets and stuff, or not all of them, but a lot of them for that region. So how did that affect everything for the next few days as you guys had to regroup and kind of get everything back together?
Well, I will say, like, the skid kid mentality, one community, like, kind of having teeth. Because the V-22s, the 53s, everybody else except for jets for the most part, they're all transport and logistics support. But like us and jets, like we're the only helicopters in the Marine Corps that do like the attack side of the house. So it's there's a certain amount of that in our DNA. So like none of our aircraft were damaged. Like our side of the flight line was assaulted by the Taliban, but they were repelled. So like I was proud of that kind of stuff. But none of our aircraft were damaged, and so it got real busy for us after that because we didn't have any Harriers that could fill strip alert or any kind of CAS missions at that time. So we got really busy. The UK, the Brits got really busy with their longbows and everything. So yeah, things got busy after that, and there was a little bit of an uptick right around there, anyways, because there's a couple movies that came out in the West, and it upset a lot of the the Islamic world, and so there was a lot of call for like retaliation. I think that was a part of it too. It was like one of them, it was like Zero Dark 30 or something like that came out, and there was call for retaliation on the world stage. So things were we're getting a little bit busy then, and then it kind of dropped off because it was September, and the fighting season starts to spool down a little bit.
Did you notice like a large increase in the security posture around the airfield in the following days?
Oh yeah, man! Everybody from that day on, like everybody was John Wayne. Like it was. Like they were ready for anything at that point. Yeah, it was crazy.
When you guys got back from the deployment, like I imagine some of the other squadrons were like, "Damn, what happened? Like, tell us, like."
Oh yeah.
So what was it? That's kind of a shitty legacy to have, Like that sucks if that's like the high point or whatever, or the most notable event of that deployment. But I mean, obviously, it's a major event.
Yeah. Well, our aircraft, along with some of the other supporting aircraft, actually killed most of the enemy that night. So that was a victory for us. Mm-hmm. When I say it was a defeat earlier, I mean like in the institution that felt more like a defeat. But like our squadron was able to kind of like beat our chests when we got back, and then it got to the point where it was like, oh, hey, the heroes of Bastion, like they. Typical Marine Corps fashion, they're like, okay, dude, like
nobody cares, bro.
Yeah, nobody, exactly, yeah. So, and that's honestly that's the stance I like to take now. It's like, it was I will internalize the value of the experience to myself, but yeah, nobody cares, bro.
yeah, I get it.